The silence on the bridge of the ISV Wanderer was heavy and deep. It was the kind of silence that only existed in the vast emptiness of space, a million miles away from any planet or star. Captain David sat in his command chair, leaning back slightly. The leather creaked softly under his weight. He was an older man with gray hair and a face that had seen many years of travel. His eyes were fixed on the large window in front of him. Outside, the stars did not twinkle. They were still and cold, watching the ship pass by. The ISV Wanderer was not a warship. It was a freighter, a big, ugly vessel designed to carry cargo from one solar system to another. It was dirty, rusty, and smelled of old oil and coffee. David loved this ship. It was his home. For 20 years, he had flown these routes, moving supplies, food, and machinery to the outer colonies. It was a simple life. Boring, sometimes, but safe. Or at least, it used to be safe. David took a sip from a metal cup. The coffee was cold, but he drank it anyway. He thought about the history of the galaxy. He remembered the stories his grandfather told him. 50 years ago, Earth was a young, confused planet. Humans were just learning how to leave their own solar system. They were scared. They did not know what was out there. Then, the elders arrived. The elders were a mystery. They came in beautiful, glowing ships that made no sound. They did not look like monsters. They looked like tall, graceful beings made of light. They did not attack Earth. Instead, they offered a hand. They shared their technology. They taught humans how to build better engines, how to grow food in space, and how to talk to other species. For 20 years, the elders guided humanity. They were like strict but kind parents. They showed the humans the right way to live in the stars. Then, 20 years ago, the elders vanished. One day, their ships were simply gone. Their planets were empty. No message was left. No explanation was given. Humanity was alone again. The galaxy was quiet. The other races were peaceful, mostly, but they kept to themselves. Humans were left to grow up on their own. David sighed and put his cup down. He missed the elders. He felt a debt in his heart that he could never repay. They saved his people from ignorance. They gave them the stars. And then they disappeared, leaving him wondering if they were ever real at all. The silence on the bridge was broken by a soft beeping sound. It was not the usual alert for a meteor shower or an engine problem. It was a different sound. Low. Rhythmic. Like a heartbeat. David sat up straight. He looked at the main console screen. The screen was usually blue and filled with navigation data. Now, it was flashing amber. A small line of text appeared in the center of the screen. Incoming transmission. Source, unknown. Alex, the helmsman, jumped in his seat. He was a young man, fresh out of the academy. He had bright eyes and always looked nervous. Captain Alex asked, his voice shaking. I am not picking this up on the standard frequencies. It is coming through the emergency channel. The deep one. David frowned. The emergency channel, that channel hasn't been used since the elders left. He stood up and walked over to Alex's station. Put it on the main speaker, David ordered. Alex typed on his keyboard with shaking fingers. I am trying, sir. It is heavily encrypted. Wait, the computer recognizes the code. The ship's computer, a mechanical female voice, spoke. Decoding complete. Source identified, Elder High Command. David felt a chill run down his spine. The coffee cup slipped from his hand and hit the metal floor with a loud clang. He did not notice. He stared at the speaker. "Play it," he said, his voice barely a whisper. Static filled the bridge. It was a crackling, hissing sound that hurt the ears. Then, through the noise, a voice came through. It was not a human voice. It was musical, harmonic, and layered, like many people speaking at once in perfect agreement. But it was weak. The music was broken. It sounded tired. "To the children of Terra," the voice said. "This is the High Council. We are under attack." David gripped the back of Alex's chair so hard his knuckles turned white. The bridge crew stopped working. Everyone was listening. "Our shields are failing. The enemy is numerous. We cannot hold them. They are consuming the sanctuary. If you can hear this, if you remember what we taught you, please. We need aid. We are dying." The message cut off with a burst of static. Then, silence returned to the bridge. But it was not a peaceful silence anymore. It was a heavy, terrible silence. David looked at the screen again. The computer had processed the data attached to the message. It showed a star map. A red dot was flashing in a sector of space that humans called the core. It was the center of the galaxy, where the elders lived. It was thousands of light years away. "Captain," Alex whispered. "The elders. They are the ones who guided us. They taught us everything." David looked at the young man. He saw the fear in Alex's eyes, but he also saw something else. He saw anger. "I know, Alex," David said softly. He turned to look out the window at the endless stars. "I thought the galaxy was peaceful. I thought we were safe." He remembered the lessons the elders taught. They taught about honor, about loyalty, and about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. They taught that strength is not just about having big guns, but about having the courage to stand between the darkness and the light. The elders were the ones who held the light. Now, the darkness was swallowing them. And they had called for help. They had called their students. "Captain," the ship's engineer, a big man named Tom, said from the back of the room. "What do? We are just a freighter. We have no weapons. We just have mining drills." David looked at his crew. They were not soldiers. They were truckers of the galaxy. They hauled wheat and metal parts. But they were human. David felt a fire ignite in his chest. It was a feeling he had not felt in a long time. It was the feeling of a debt that needed to be paid. The elders raised humanity. They gave them a future. Now that future was in danger, and the parents were calling for their children. "Send the signal," David commanded. His voice was strong now. It was the voice of a captain. Alex looked up. "Sir, which signal?" "The distress call," David said. "Copy the elder's message. Add our ship's signature. Broadcast it on every frequency human ships use. Send it to the colonies, to the stations, to the mining outposts. Send it everywhere." "But Captain," Alex said, "that is against protocol. We are not a military ship. We need authorization from Earth Command." David walked back to his chair and sat down. He strapped himself in. "Earth Command is too far away. By the time they decide what to do, the elders will be dead." He looked at the star map on the screen. The red dot was blinking, like a heart in trouble. "We are going, Alex," David said. We are going to the core. If the elders fall, we fall next. We cannot let the galaxy go back to the dark. The crew looked at each other. They were scared. They were just cargo haulers. But they looked at Captain David, and they saw he was serious. They remembered the stories of the elders. They remembered the kindness the aliens showed to Earth. "Tom," David said to the engineer. "How long until the drive is ready?" Tom cleared his throat. "The hyperdrive needs a warm-up, sir. But I can push it. Give me 10 minutes. "Do it," David said. "Alex, set a course for the core coordinates. Maximum speed." Alex typed quickly. The ship began to hum. The vibration of the engines changed, growing louder and deeper. The floor beneath their feet trembled. The ISV Wanderer was waking up. "Course set," Alex said. "Estimated time of arrival, 40 hours. David looked around the bridge one last time. "This might be a one-way trip," he told them. "We don't know what we are flying into. If anyone wants to leave, now is the time to get to the escape pods." Nobody moved. Tom crossed his arms. Alex kept his hands on the controls. The navigation officer, a young woman named Lisa, simply nodded at David. "We're with you, Captain," Lisa said. "They helped us when we were weak. We can't leave them alone now." A small smile appeared on David's face. "Good. Then let us go." He pushed the throttle forward. Outside, the stars began to stretch. They turned from pinpoints of light into long streaks of color. The ISV Wanderer leaped forward, breaking the silence of the void. It was just one ship. It was small and rusty. But David knew they were not the only ones. He knew that every human captain who heard that call would feel the same fire. He knew that across the galaxy, engines were starting, miners were putting down their picks and picking up helmets. Farmers were leaving their fields. The call had gone out. It was a call for help from the ones who once guided a human. And every Terran captain would respond. The ship shook violently as it entered hyperspace, leaving the peaceful sector behind. They were racing toward the darkness, ready to fight for the light. The debt was finally being paid. The signal from the elders did not just stay in one place. It moved faster than light, jumping from relay station to relay station, crossing the vast emptiness of the galaxy in the blink of an eye. It was a cry for help, a scream of terror from a race that had seemed like gods to humanity. This signal hit the ears of every human ship, every space station, and every distant colony. The reaction was not slow. It did not take days for the humans to talk about it or vote on what to do. The reaction was instant and loud. It was a roar of anger that shook the silence of the galaxy. On the red dust of Mars, the great mining colony called Red Outpost was busy. Huge machines drilled into the ground, looking for precious metals. The workers were tired, covered in red dirt. Then, the alarms rang out. It was not a fire alarm. It was the call. The supervisor, a tough man named Bill, looked at his screen. He saw the ancient symbol of the elders flashing red. He saw the coordinates of the core. He saw the video of the enemy ships attacking the golden cities. Bill stood up on a metal crate so everyone could see him. The miners stopped their machines. The air was filled with the sound of grinding gears stopping. "Listen up!" Bill shouted. "The elders are under attack. The ones who gave us the technology to breathe on this rock. The ones who saved us from starving when the crops failed. They are dying." The miners looked at each other. They were not soldiers. They were diggers. The company rules say we stay here and keep mining, Bill continued. But I don't care about the rules today. Who is coming with me? A cheer went up that shook the walls. Within 10 minutes, the massive drilling rigs were not digging down. They were turning their engines upward. They were stripping off the safety sensors and overcharging the reactors. These giant machines were not meant to fly, but today, they would. They were going to space, and they would join the fight. Far away, on the luxury space station Starlight Paradise, things were different. Rich people were drinking expensive drinks and dancing in zero gravity. They were safe and far from the war. Then, the music stopped. The captain of the station, a calm woman named Sarah, walked onto the dance floor. She usually asked people to leave quietly. Today, she grabbed a microphone. Everyone needs to leave, she said firmly. The station is being taken. The rich guests complained. This is our holiday. One man yelled. We paid a lot of money. Sarah looked at him with cold eyes. The teachers of our race are bleeding. We have the fastest engines in the galaxy. We have the best communication arrays. We are going to the core. If you want to stay on the station, you can come with us. But this ship is no longer a hotel. It is a warship. Get off, or get to your battle stations. To the shock of the security guards, almost no one left. The man who yelled about his money stood up straight. I was a pilot in the reserve, he said quietly. Tell me where to go. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out thousands of times. It did not matter if the human was a farmer, a truck driver, a teacher, or a scientist. When they heard the elders call, something woke up inside them. It was a memory. A memory of being small and weak, and a gentle hand reaching down to lift them up. The humans called it the dead. The elders had given them everything. Now, the elders needed everything in return. Back on the ISV Wanderer, the ship was shaking as it flew through hyperspace. The blue light of the warp tunnel outside the window was blinding. Captain David stood in the middle of the bridge. He was watching the radar screen. At first, the screen only showed the Wanderer. They were alone in the dark stream of space. But then, a dot appeared. Then another. Then hundreds. David smiled. Look at that, Alex. Alex was typing furiously at his console, trying to track the signals. It is incredible, sir. Sensors are picking up ships coming from everywhere. The iron giant from the asteroid belt. The sea of stars from the water colonies. Even the old science vessel Curiosity is leaving the nebula. Put them on the main screen, David said. The large window changed from the blue tunnel light to a communication grid. It showed the faces of other captains. There was Captain Miller, a freighter captain like David. There was Commander Lisa, who led a small fleet of patrol ships. There was even Old Man Jenkins, who flew a ship that was barely held together by tape and hope. This is Captain Miller, a gruff voice came over the speaker. I have 3 cargo ships full of steel. We can build barricades if we need to. This is Commander Lisa, a sharp voice cut in. I have 6 fast attack ships. We can run interference. But we are going to need a bigger plan. We are just a mess of different ships. David touched the button on his chair to speak. We are not a navy, Lisa, he said. We are a swarm. We don't need a perfect battle formation. We just need to get there. The elders taught us that chaos can be a weapon. He paused, looking at the hundreds of faces on his screen. They were all looking at him, waiting for orders. David was just a cargo captain, but right now, he was the one leading the charge. "We don't know what we are facing," David continued. "The elders are powerful. If they are scared, then this enemy is bad. We have to be ready for anything. If our guns fail, we use our ships. If our ships fail, we use our wrenches. We do not stop. We do not retreat." The voices shouted back together. The mood on the bridge of the Wanderer changed. The fear was gone. It was replaced by a strong sense of purpose. Alex sat straighter. Tom, the engineer, was humming a tune while he watched the engine heat levels. Even the ship's cook, a man named Paul, came up to the bridge to stand by the door, holding a big metal ladle like a weapon. "I just wish we knew what we were fighting," Alex muttered to himself. He tapped a few keys, bringing up the data packet from the elders again. He wanted to analyze the enemy ships. The image on the screen was fuzzy, but it was terrifying. It showed the enemy bioships. They were not sleek and silver like human ships, or golden like elder ships. They were black. They looked like giant insects or deep-sea monsters made of metal and flesh. They had sharp claws and mouths full of teeth. Alex shivered. They looked like nightmares. David walked over to him and put a hand on the young man's shoulder. "Scary, aren't they?" "Yes, sir," Alex admitted. "How do we fight things like that?" David looked at the screen. He remembered the history lessons. The elders always fought with elegance. They used precise energy beams and tactical maneuvers. They were like dancers. But humans were different. When humans fought, they got dirty. They used noise and fire. They crashed into things. They survived. "We fight them the only way we know how," David said. "We hit them until they break." The hours passed by like minutes. The hyperspace tunnel began to shimmer. The ship's computer beeped. Approaching the core sector, the mechanical voice announced, "Prepare for exit." The tension on the bridge spiked. Tom gripped the edge of his console. Lisa, the navigator, took a deep breath. "Brace for impact," David yelled. The ISV Wanderer jerked violently as it dropped out of hyperspace. The stars returned to normal points of light. But the view in front of them was not beautiful anymore. Ahead lay the core sector. It should have been a bright, shining place full of elder cities. Instead, smoke and fire covered the space. Debris floated everywhere. Large chunks of broken golden ships drifted past the window. And around the planet of the elders, a dark cloud swarmed. Thousands of black enemy ships circled the planet like locusts, firing green beams of destruction down onto the surface. "My God," Alex whispered. "Look at the size of that fleet." David's eyes narrowed. He could see flashes of light where the elder ships were trying to fight back, but they were outnumbered. The golden light was fading. "Sound the general alarm," David commanded. His voice was steady. "Wake up everyone on this ship. Get to the guns. Get to the engines. We are here." He looked at the radar. Behind him, dropping out of hyperspace one by one, came the rest of the human fleet. It was a strange, ragged group. There were thousands of them. Mining ships, luxury yachts, cargo haulers, and small fighters. They had no uniform colors. They had no matching logos. But they were all moving forward. "Open a channel to the entire fleet," David said. "Channel open, sir," Alex said. David took a breath. He spoke to his people, the people of Earth. "This is Captain David of the Wanderer," he said. "I see you. I see all of you. We have traveled a long way to get here. The people down there on that planet gave us the stars. Today, we give them back their lives. Attack pattern Delta. Everyone, pick a target and charge. Let's show the galaxy why you don't mess with humans." A roar of agreement came over the radio. David looked at the black swarm ahead. "Engage." The human fleet moved forward like an angry cloud of hornets. There was no neat line, no careful formation. It was a massive mix of ships, big and small, fast and slow, all rushing toward the same point. The silence of space was broken by the roar of thousands of engines firing at full power. Captain David stood on the bridge of the Wanderer, watching the enemy on the screen. The black bioships of the harvesters did not move. They floated like dead rocks in space, waiting for the humans to come closer. "Enemy ships are locking onto us," Alex said. His fingers flew across the keyboard. "They are targeting the lead ships." "Let them target," David said calmly. "Tom, how are the engines?" "Hot, Captain," Tom replied from the back. "I am pushing them to the limit. We are going as fast as this old bucket can go." Suddenly, green beams of energy shot out from the black enemy ships. The beams moved fast, hitting the front lines of the human fleet. David watched as a small transport ship, carrying medical supplies, took a direct hit. It exploded silently, turning into a brief ball of fire. Then another ship, a mining vessel, was hit. It did not explode, but it spun out of control, smoke pouring from its side. David felt a pain in his chest. Those were not just ships, those were his people. But the fleet did not stop. They did not turn around. The ships behind the destroyed one simply flew faster to fill the empty space. "They are not slowing down," Alex whispered, surprised. "They are flying right through the fire." "That is the human way," David said. "We do not stop until the job is done." The harvesters seemed confused. Their hive mind, the collective intelligence that controlled them, could not understand this behavior. In all their years of traveling the galaxy, they had fought many races. Most races would retreat if a few ships were destroyed. Most races valued safety. These humans did not. They acted like their own lives meant nothing compared to the mission. A group of enemy ships broke off from the main swarm. They moved to intercept a squadron of large mining ships led by a rough captain named Miller. These mining ships were not built for battle. They were huge, slow, and covered in heavy metal plating to protect them from space dust. But Miller had a plan. "Bring us around." Miller's voice came over the radio, filled with static and shouting. "Deploy the drills. Show these bugs what we do to rocks." The mining ships turned their heavy fronts toward the incoming enemy. On the hull of Miller's ship, huge industrial drills began to spin. They were designed to crush through hard asteroids to get to the metal inside. The harvesters fired their green beams, but the thick armor of the mining ships held. It blackened and smoked, but it did not break. Then, the mining ships fired their engines at full power. They crashed into the black bioships like huge battering rams. The sound could not be heard in the vacuum of space, but the impact was violent. The spinning drills tore through the outer shell of the bioships. The harvesters were living vessels, filled with fluids and soft tissue. The drills ripped them apart. Green blood and debris floated into space as the mining ships plowed through the enemy line. "Did you see that?" Alex shouted, pointing at the screen. "Miller just tore through them." David smiled grimly. The harvesters expect energy shields and lasers, he said. They do not know how to fight a mining crew that uses a ship as a weapon. On the other side of the battle, Commander Lisa was leading a group of fast attack ships. These were small, sleek vessels, usually used for racing or catching smugglers. They were too fast for the big harvester guns to hit. Lisa's ships moved like swallows, dodging and weaving. They flew in close to the enemy ships, right under their guns. Then, they unleashed their own weapons. They did not have big heavy guns, so they used what they had: missiles and rapid-fire plasma cannons. They strafed the enemy, shooting at the sensors and the engine vents of the black ships. "Focus fire on the big one," Lisa commanded. "The one in the center." Her ship swarmed the harvester leader. The black ship tried to turn, but it was too slow. The humans were too fast. They peppered its hull with fire until it stopped moving and drifted away, dead in space. The Wanderer was now in the middle of the chaos. David saw a harvester ship turning its weapons toward them. "Alex, evasive maneuvers," David ordered. The ship shook violently as a beam of green light grazed their side. The lights on the bridge flickered. "Hull breach on deck 4. Tom shouted. "Shields are down to 60%. "Return fire," David yelled. "Main rail guns, fire at will." The Wanderer shuddered as it launched its heavy metal slugs. They slammed into the bio ship, punching holes deep into its body. The enemy ship shuddered and exploded. But there were too many of them. For every enemy ship the humans destroyed, 3 more seemed to appear. The black swarm was like a thick wall. The humans were fighting bravely, but they were taking heavy damage. The radio channels were full of screams and damage reports. David knew they could not keep this up forever. They were pushing the enemy back, but the cost was high. "We need to break their formation," David said. "If we stay here, they will wear us down." He looked at the radar screen. He saw the path to the planet below. It was blocked by a dense group of enemy ships. The elders on the surface were still firing back, but their golden city was burning. "Get me Commander Vance on the Terra's Hope," David said. After a moment of static, a strong voice came through. "This is Vance." "Go ahead, David." "Vance, we can't punch through the middle," David said quickly. "It is too thick. We need to hit them from the side, where their defenses are weaker." "I see it," Vance replied. "But my ship is heavy. I cannot turn fast enough." "I will go," David said. "I will take the freighters and the heavy ships. We will draw their fire. You take the fast ships and hit the side." "Are you sure, David, that is a suicide run?" "They are our teachers, Vance," David said simply. "Move your ships." David cut the connection. "Alex, change course. Take us right at the center of the enemy line. Maximum speed." Alex looked at him with wide eyes. "Captain, that is the strongest part of their defense." "I know," David said. "Trust me." The Wanderer turned away from the safety of the group. It aimed straight for the thickest part of the black swarm. To David's surprise and pride, other ships began to follow him. The heavy cargo ships, the tankers, the slow repair vessels. They all saw what the Wanderer was doing, and they followed. They flew like a herd of angry bulls. "Brace for impact," David yelled. The harvesters saw the human ships coming. They focused all their fire on this new attack. The sky in front of the Wanderer turned green with enemy fire. "Hold steady," David shouted. The Wanderer took hit after hit. The ship groaned and metal twisted. The hull was glowing red from the heat. But they did not fire back. They just kept flying. They were a distraction. They were drawing the fire away from Commander Vance's fleet. Now, Vance. Now. David screamed into the radio. From the side, unseen by the harvesters who were focused on David, Vance's fleet struck. They hit the enemy swarm with full force, crashing into the exposed side of the formation. The surprise was total. The enemy line broke. Go! Go! David shouted. Punch through! The human fleet surged forward through the gap in the enemy lines. They broke past the blockade. The path to the planet was open. The harvesters were in chaos. Their hive minds struggled to understand what had happened. They had never seen such tactics. Sacrifice. Distraction. Bravery. These were concepts they did not know. The humans were fighting not with science, but with heart. The Wanderer drifted into the clear space near the planet. The ship was badly damaged, smoke rising from its hull, but it was still flying. We made it, Alex said, breathless. We actually made it? David looked at the planet below. The fires were still burning, but the way was clear for the rest of the fleet to descend. They had broken the wall. Now the real battle would begin on the ground and in the skies above the Elder City. Tom, get the engines back online, David said, wiping blood from a cut on his forehead. We aren't done yet. The harvesters were regrouping, turning their attention to the humans who had broken through. But the humans did not look away. They stood their ground, forming a protective circle between the enemy and the planet. The little brothers had arrived, and they were not leaving. The battle above the Golden Planet was chaotic and loud. The human fleet had broken through the enemy lines, but now they were surrounded. The Wanderer shook violently as a nearby explosion sent debris crashing against the hull. On the bridge, red lights flashed, warning of damage to the ship's outer plating. Hold us together, Tom. David shouted over the noise of the alarms. I am trying, Captain. The engineer yelled back. The port engine is losing power, but I can reroute the power from the life support. Don't do that, David said quickly. Just keep the guns firing. We need every shot we have. Outside the window, the scene was terrifying. The harvesters were regrouping. Their black bioships moved together like a swarm of angry bees, forming a tight circle around the human fleet. The golden ships of the elders were few and far between. Some were drifting in space, broken and silent. Others were firing weak beams of energy, but their attacks were not strong enough to hurt the enemy's thick armor. David looked down at the planet below. The beautiful cities were burning. Large black craters marked where the enemy weapons had hit. Even from this high up, he could feel the pain of the planet. It felt like watching a parent being beaten by a bully. They are going to overwhelm us, Alex said, his voice tight with fear. Look at the radar. There are too many of them. David watched the screen. The young man was right. The harvesters were not fighting like a normal military. They did not care about their own ships. They were crashing into human vessels, using their sharp claws to rip open the metal hulls. It was a slaughter. The humans were brave, but bravery does not stop a sharp claw. We need a new plan, David said. We cannot just shoot at them. We need to make them stop attacking. Suddenly, a calm voice came over the radio. It was Commander Vance on the Terra's Hope. All human ships, listen to me. We are taking too much damage. We are fighting their game. We need to fight our game. Switch to kinetic weapons. Use the rail guns. Stop using the energy shields and put all power into the engines. We are going to get close. David knew what Vance meant. Energy shields were good for blocking beams, but they used a lot of power. If they turned off the shields and used that power for the engines and the heavy metal guns, they could hit the enemy much harder, but it meant they would have no protection. One hit would destroy them. Tom, David said. Do you hear Vance? I hear him, Tom said. It is crazy. But I like it. Do it. Turn off the shields. Power the rail guns. Shields down, Alex announced. Power to guns at 100%. The Wanderer surged forward. Without the heavy energy shields holding them back, the ship was faster. David steered the ship straight toward a massive harvester battleship. The enemy ship fired a green beam, but it missed the Wanderer because the ship was moving too fast. Fire! David yelled. The Wanderer shook as the massive railgun cannons fired. They were not shooting lasers, they were shooting huge metal slugs the size of cars. The slugs flew across space and smashed into the black bioship. The impact was devastating. The metal slugs tore through the enemy's armor like paper. Black liquid and body parts exploded into the void. The harvester battleship did not explode immediately. It shuddered and stopped moving. Its lights went out. Direct hit. Alex cheered. It is disabled. All ships, focus on the engines of the enemy ships. Vance ordered over the radio. Disable them, don't just blow them up. Trap them. The rest of the human fleet followed the order. Hundreds of ships turned off their shields and rushed forward. It was a dangerous tactic. Many human ships were hit and destroyed. But for every ship lost, 3 enemy ships were disabled. The harvesters were not used to this kind of aggression. Their enemies usually stayed far away and traded shots from a distance. The humans were getting right in their faces. On the surface of the planet, the High Elder watched the sky from a tall tower that was partially destroyed. His body was weak, and his silver skin was scratched from falling debris. He looked up at the space above him. The sky was dark with enemy ships, but now he saw the flash of human weapons. He saw the ugly, brown, and gray ships of the humans weaving through the black swarm. He saw them taking hits that would destroy an Elder vessel, yet they kept firing. He heard the roar of their engines through the sensors. It was not a song of the stars, like Elders sang. It was a scream of raw power. The humans, the High Elder whispered. They came. Beside him, a younger Elder looked at the screens. They are fighting without shields, Elder. They are sacrificing themselves. The High Elder closed his eyes and felt a deep emotion. He remembered when they first found the humans. The humans were primitive, fighting with sticks and simple guns. The Elders thought they were like children who needed to be taught manners. They taught the humans to be calm. They taught them to be peaceful. But now, the High Elder realized that the humans were never truly tamed. They had learned the manners, but deep down, they were still wild. They were the guardians of the pack. And now the pack was in danger. They are not children anymore, the High Elder said. They have become the warriors we could never be. Back in space, the battle had reached its peak. The harvesters were confused. Their hive mind could not process the data. Why were these small ships attacking without fear? Why did they not retreat when they were hurt? The black swarm began to lose its coordination. The ships started to crash into each other. David saw the confusion. He knew it was time. Alex, Signal the fleet, David said. The hammer formation. Now. The hammer formation was a simple, brutal move. All the human ships would turn their engines to the front and fire them at full power while shooting their forward guns at the same time. It turned the ship into a missile. Formation hammer, I. Alex shouted. Across the fleet, thousands of ships turned in unison. They roared toward the center of the enemy formation. The harvesters tried to fire, but the human ships were moving too fast. They slammed into the enemy. It was a collision of epic proportions. The human ships, led by the heavy freighters like the Wanderer, smashed into the bio ships. The drills, the reinforced hulls, and the sheer momentum of the human vessels crushed the enemy. The Black Swarm was broken apart. The harvesters were pushed back, scattered into the dark edges of the solar system. Silence slowly returned to the space above the planet. The burning debris floated in the void. The human ships regrouped, their engines smoking, their hulls battered. But they were still there. We did it, Alex whispered. We pushed them back. David looked at the screen. The enemy ships were retreating. They were leaving the system. The humans had won. Open a channel to the planet, David said. Let's see if they are still listening. Channel open, Alex said. This is Captain David of the human fleet, David spoke into the microphone. To the High Elder. The sky is clear. We are holding the line. We are not leaving. For a moment, there was only static. Then, a voice came through. It was the High Elder. It sounded tired, but it was filled with warmth. Thank you, the voice said. We were ready to die. But you came. We told you, David said, leaning back in his chair, exhausted but happy. We don't leave our family behind. David looked around the bridge. Tom was crying, wiping grease from his eyes. Alex was smiling so wide it hurt. They had done the impossible. A ragtag group of cargo ships and miners had defeated the terrifying harvesters. But the battle was not over for the humans. They had arrived as students, but they would leave as heroes. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. They were no longer the little brothers. They were the protectors. And they were here to stay. The silence that followed the battle was different from the silence of space before. It was not an empty silence. It was a heavy, tired silence that comes after hard work. The green beams of the enemy were gone, the explosions had stopped. Above the golden planet, the black smoke drifted among the stars, mixing with the debris of broken ships. The human fleet remained in formation, floating in the void. They were battered, scarred, and many were barely holding together. But they were alive. Captain David sat in his command chair on the bridge of the ISV Wanderer. His hands were resting on the armrests, and for the first time in many hours, he let out a long breath. His body ached. His uniform was stained with sweat and dirt from when he had to help fix a broken console during the fight. He looked out the large window at the planet below. The fires on the surface were still burning, but the beams from the harvesters were no longer raining down. We did it, sir, Alex said softly. The young helmsman looked like he was about to fall asleep. The enemy is retreating. They are leaving the system. I know, Alex, David said. Keep the sensors active. I want to know the moment they are gone for good. On the main screen, small red dots were moving away from the planet, turning toward the deep darkness of the galaxy. The harvesters were running. They had never faced an enemy like this before. They were used to easy targets, not a swarm of angry, stubborn humans who refuse to die. The hive mind had decided to cut its losses and flee. "Ships are reporting in," Lisa said from the navigation station. Her voice was calm, but David could hear the relief in it. "Commander Vance is still alive. The Iron Giant is heavily damaged but stable. We lost many ships, sir." David nodded slowly. He knew the cost. He had seen the transport ships explode. He had seen the mining ships crash into the enemy. They were gone now. But their sacrifice had saved the world. "Send a list of the lost to every ship," David ordered. "We will remember them later. Right now, we have a job to do." A soft chime sound came from the communication console. It was a request for a video link. The source was the surface of the planet. "Put it on the screen, Alex," David said. The static cleared, and the face of the High Elder appeared. He looked older than before. His silver skin was pale, and there were dark circles under his large, dark eyes. He was standing in a room that looked damaged, with broken pillars and smoke in the background. But he stood tall. "Human Captain," the High Elder said. His voice was musical, but it was filled with deep emotion. "I see your ships in the sky. They are not the sleek ships of our navy. They are rugged and ugly. But they are the most beautiful thing I have ever seen." "High Elder," David said, standing up and straightening his uniform out of respect. "We heard your call. We came as fast as we could." "You came," the High Elder repeated. "For 50 years, we watched over you. We taught you our ways. We thought we were the parents and you were the children. We thought we were protecting you from the galaxy." He paused and looked away for a moment, as if he was ashamed. "We were wrong. Today, you protected us. You fought with a ferocity that my people have forgotten. We fight with logic and distance. You fought with heart and courage. We are just doing what you taught us," David said. "To help those in need." "You learned the lesson too well," the High Elder said, a small smile appearing on his face. "You have surpassed us, David. You are no longer students. Today, you became the guardians." David felt a lump in his throat. He did not know what to say. He looked at his crew. Tom, the engineer, was wiping his eyes on his sleeve. Alex was grinning, even though he was exhausted. They all knew they had done something special. "We will stay here," David said to the elder. "We will help you repair your defenses. We will make sure the harvesters do not come back." The High Elder shook his head slowly. "No, Captain. Your fleet is tired. Your ships are damaged. And you have your own people to protect in the outer colonies. The galaxy has changed today. The other races will hear about this battle. They will know that humanity is not weak. They will know that you are the shield." "What will you do?" David asked. "We will rebuild," the High Elder said. "And this time, we will build side by side with you. Not as teachers and students, but as equals. But first, you must rest." "Thank you, High Elder," David said. "Thank you, humanity," the elder replied. "The call went out, and you answered. We will never forget this." The screen went black. David sat back down in his chair. He felt very tired, but it was a good kind of tired. The kind of tired you feel after a hard day's work well done. "Captain," Alex said. "The Terra's Hope is signaling. Commander Vance is ordering the fleet to form a perimeter. He says we are going to camp here for the night." David smiled. Sounds good. Tell Tom to shut down the main engines. Keep the life support running. We are staying. The next few hours were busy but peaceful. Repair ships from the human fleet moved around, helping the damaged ships dock together. The humans shared food, water, and medical supplies. They shared stories of the battle. Captains talked on the radio, laughing about crazy maneuvers and crying about lost friends. David stood on the bridge, looking out at the fleet. It was a strange sight. There were no shiny warships. There were cargo haulers, mining rigs, and luxury yachts floating side by side. They were a mess. But they were his family. He looked down at the planet again. The elders were safe. The gods who had once guided humanity were alive because the little humans had come to save them. David thought about the future. He knew things would be different now. The galaxy would look at humans with respect, maybe even a little bit of fear. And that was okay. Humans would use that respect to keep the peace. They would carry the torch that the elders had lit, and they would make it burn brighter. "Alex," David said quietly. "Are you there?" "Yes, Captain." "Take the chair for a while," David said, standing up. "I am going to get some coffee. And then I am going to sleep for a week." Alex laughed. "I will hold the fort, Captain. Don't worry." David walked to the back of the bridge. He poured a cup of coffee from the machine. It was hot and black. He took a sip and looked out the window one last time. The stars were shining brightly again. The darkness of the harvesters was gone. "We've got the watch now," David whispered to the stars. He walked off the bridge, leaving the young generation in charge. The Wanderer floated in the silent space, guarding the planet below. The debt was paid. The children had grown up. And they were ready for whatever came next.